Hello all and welcome back to my channel, Rover Turbo. In this video I'm doing some more work on the Rover 416 GTI. So I'm getting some little niggly issues sorted out with it. The window regulator in the driver's door, giving it a good clean and getting it ready for sale basically. So follow me on with the video, please like and subscribe. Let's get on. Electric window isn't working on this. Oh. I don't think it did anything. Okay, well it does. It doesn't want to go down. It's making a noise going up. So I don't know whether it's the motor's gone or the regulators. Someone's been mucking about with it. I don't know. So I'm going to take the door card off. So just to show you how to do that, we've got your car, because this has probably been apart hundreds of times before and it's passed. It's probably going to have a multitude of different screws all over the place. So this isn't going to be an exact step by step because yours might be different, but the screw locations are going to be the same if there's a screw in there. So you've got a normal size screw there, you've got a little screw there which just holds this little plastic trim piece on, and that should be a little stumpy screw with a shoulder on it. You've got quite a big fat screw that goes in here. You've got a screw that goes in that hole and a screw that goes in there, and that should be it, and then it will just be held on with poppers. That hasn't got one in it. That doesn't look like it's got the right screw in it. Nope, there's either nothing behind there or that's the wrong screw. This should be quite a fat screw. As I said, it's probably had thousands of different reincarnations. This goes through a metal bracket behind here and that screws through into the door, and they don't normally come out, they fall out when you take the door card off. And then we've just got plastic poppers, most of which are probably going to be broken. Don't forget that screw. Let's have an unscrew it as well. And there's a screw down in there. So this piece just comes off. You can see that just screws into a little screw behind there, and then pop this piece off. So that just clips down in there and then pops in a little plug, and then you have to pull it out and then lift it up over this button, because this is hooked. This trim is hooked into the metal of the door, so it has to come up. And then pull it out over there. And obviously there will be connectors if you've got electric windows. Obviously this is electric windows. If yours is manual, you will need to take off the door handle first. Now this is supposed to have a plastic protective sheet that goes around and seals the elements, because water is going to get down inside here, or the other side obviously, and it just stops the moisture and the getting through into the car. Right, let me do a little bit more investigation, because basically there should be just power going to the motor. So it looks like the regulator and everything is intact. It's just stopped working, so it could be the switch, it could be this, or it could just be the motor, but the motor was wanting to go one way but not the other, so I can test the switch. So it's been a few days since I've done anything on the Rover. I can't remember where I left off, but the window motor, when I powered it, it wasn't moving. So when I got a battery and a lead, and I probed all of the connections on the motor. It wasn't doing anything, it was dead. So I took the regulator out. At the moment it's just been held up, the window's just held up by a wedge. I took the regulator out and the motor out. But also jumping about a bit, what also confused me was the output from the, so this is the relay, which goes in this little box. So this goes on the door here, and then it has two plugs on the bottom. One's an in and one's an out. So on these particular Rovers, they have an auto, or what they call comfort. They have a comfort feature, which basically means that when you push it all the way down, the window automatically goes down. I think it only works in the downward position. When I was probing using the multimeter, this is just a story that I'm just catching you up on because I've figured it all out now, but you've got 4 wires that come out of the relay pack, and then you've got 4 wires that go to the motor. Now there's 2 really thick wires and there's 2 really thin wires. Now the motor in the window motor is a bit of a weird, it's got 2 sets of brushes in it, so I don't quite know how the comfort feature works on that, but I couldn't get, whenever I was testing this and this, it would click up but it wouldn't click down. That's down, that's up. And I just thought, oh, you know, it's something else, whatever. But I tested the motor, and the motor wouldn't move either. So anyway, the motor is gone, it's faulty, it's dead. I've tried stripping the motor down, but I don't know how they put it together, because you can't put it back together. I can't put it back together. So that's dead. So in the process of trying to figure out this, what I've done is I've ordered a motor for the rear door, because these driver's ones aren't available. There's a company on eBay on the internet called Regulator Man, and they list a regulator for this, but it's got the wrong connector on it, and they don't actually have it anyway. The Rover 400 does look like it has the bubble shape, does look like it has the comfort feature, but the connector looks wrong, and it's 130 quid, and I wasn't going to risk it. So I got a motor for a rear door for 25 quid delivered off of eBay secondhand. Now the physical motor looks exactly the same because it goes on the right hand side of the car, but the plug's different. It only has a 2-pin plug because obviously it's just up and down, there's no comfort feature. So in the process of trying to work out if I could get a standard motor, because as long as it bolts into the regulator, I unbolt the old motor, bolt the new motor into the regulator, as long as it goes up and down, I'm not bothered about the comfort feature. That's just something that's just going to have to die because there's just no parts available. So I was just trying to figure out how I was going to wire it in, because obviously I can't put a 2-pin plug into a 4-pin connector. I worked out that there was no voltage coming out of the down section of the relay. So what I was doing is I was connecting the multimeter to this wire and this wire, and I had 12 volts on the up, but I had nothing on the down, and I tried all the wires and I couldn't figure it out, but I suddenly realised that it wasn't clicking, the relay wasn't clicking. So what I did is I took it apart, took it out, and it looks like it's had evidence, because this plastic thing is missing here, so it looks like it's had evidence of something leaking inside it at some point. So on here, I don't know if you can see that, it says up relay and down relay. So obviously these two click and send power to the motor depending on, usually 12 volts, and then it reverses the polarity. So I resoldered this, reflowed all of the connections, brought it back down, plugged it in, it started working. I thought, brilliant. So I had 12 volts down and minus 12 volts going up. I thought, great, fantastic. Then it started clicking randomly on its own, and then one of the relays stuck on. So it was sending 12 volts permanently out on one of the wires. So I was like, oh, God. So I took it apart again, took it back up to the, and I reflowed again, resoldered it again, took a bit of solder out, put a bit of new solder in. Now we've got 12 volts on the down and we've got minus 12 volts on the up. So that, in theory, should mean that it's going to work. So I don't know if I can show you it working, hold on. Right, so I've hooked up, so it's the two fatter wires, so the red wire with the, I can't remember what stripe it's got on it, and the blue wire with the red stripe, and they're the two fat wires. So that's connected up. Did it? Yeah, it's doing it again. It's doing it again. It's randomly clicking on and off, look. So that, yeah, can you hear it? Right, so I've got to now see if I can find a holy grail and find one of those regulators, because if I unplug this, it still does it. If I unplug the window switches, there's a plug on the back of the window switches, it still does it. So it's got to be a fault with a resistor or something, or the relay, or it's failing or something, because now that's permanently, it keeps going permanent 12 volts, so that would mean it will be putting the window down. The motors are kind of, they've got rivets on them which hold them on. So what I've done is I've put this motor onto my original regulator, and I'm just going to make it work basically. So I'm going to put this regulator, obviously bolt it back in, and then I'm waiting. I have found there's quite a few actually on eBay of these control units. So I've purchased one of these control units, and obviously we've got 4 wires out, but there's only 2 main pins. So I'll use the original wire, and I'll just wire that into the motor, and it should go up and down as normal. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bolt the regulator in, and then just manually apply power to test it. And obviously you have to bring, I say obviously, you have to bring the window down to a certain location. I think it might be one of these holes to get through to the bolts. So obviously this one's fine because it's in here, but the other one, it might be here, I can't remember. There's a certain hole that you have to gain access through to the bolts, so you have to manually, I had to pretty much unbolt the regulator with the window attached to it and bring the whole lot down and then get to the bolts. So right, we'll get the regulator in. Right, so the window regulator goes up in this hole, and it goes over here, and then it's held in place by these 3 bolts, the main regulator. And then you've got an arm under here, which you have to then bolt in with these 2 bolts here. And then obviously you can see, obviously the window bolts to there, but of course you can't get to this one. So I believe it is this one down here you have to line it up with. So we'll get the battery and the motor, and we'll obviously wind that up and down and make sure it actually physically works. Right, so the motor goes up and down, so I've just cut the wire to the motor, and you just literally just need to put 12 volts on that way for it to go up or down, and then reverse it for it to go up and the opposite. So the window goes in from this side at an angle, so you need to tip the window down and get it into this guide, and then this one then goes down into this guide, and then you just need to lower it down. So you can just see through that hole there, you can see where it lines up with the hole on the rail and the bolt on the window. You can leave the bolts in because it's slotted, as you can see there, and then all you then need to do is to pull this across like that and then do the bolts up. Okay, and I think this arm here, because it's slotted here, it gives you a little bit of adjustment as to whether the window goes up straight or at an angle. They don't have to be super tight, they're only plastic. I've also got some silicone spray and sprayed it inside the groove, and I'll work the window up and down and then just spray some. It just, you know, when these cars get old and the rubbers get dry and sticky, the window can, you know, struggle going up and down, and that just puts strain on the motor. It puts strain on these, which someone's obviously, not obviously, but someone's, these are just clamped onto the bottom of the window with some kind of gripping compound or silicone or something, and these are notorious for coming off, so someone's obviously redone that. And that's what happens, is the window stays behind and the motor pulls these brackets off of the window. So there you go. So I might need to adjust that bar slightly. I'll check that it is going up and down straight, and then I'll lubricate all of these a little bit more, and I'll do the other side because that one's struggling as well. So I just need to wait for this box to come in. Then I'm going to get a rubble sack or some kind of thick plastic membrane. I've got some DPM sheet that I'm going to cut into this shape here and put some silicone and just stick that back on. Obviously once this is all back together and I've wired this, because obviously I'm going to need to plug in the original. This goes in here and this plugs into here, and obviously then I'll wire that into there, obviously making sure that it goes the right way with the switch. So I've soldered the wires for the motor on there, bit of heat shrink, taped it up, clipped it back in. This will go up here, but the plastic needs to go on first. The window goes up and down fine, so the only thing that doesn't work is the auto. So we've just got a bit of plastic DPM, and I'm just going to cut it around the shape and silicone it on and put this bracket on, put that box on, poke the wires through, put the speaker on and put the door card on. It's missing a few of its plastic things, but I've got some spare of those. So that's the door card back on again with all the screws back in the correct locations. So yeah, so everything is working now. The window goes up and down, so it's all pretty much up together, cleaned, and decided that now I'm going to sell it. So I'm just taking it somewhere to take some pictures of it, and I think it looks pretty smart. I think, you know, the wheels, people, I'm not sure whether they like or not, which I agree with, but there's one shot here at the rear I just think that's just awesome picture. Almost makes me don't want to get rid of it now, but I can't keep every car. So the interior I still haven't cleaned. I've still got to do that. It could do with a different interior, to be honest with you, because it's got an SLI interior, which is fine. The door cards and stuff are fine, but it could do with some 420 GSI seats, because it really needs a set of rear seats in it ideally, and these seats aren't particularly great, because I mean there's nothing wrong with that, but it's not great, is it? So, and the dashboard, well, yes, ideally you'd want to change that, but I got used to it really quickly. So I've also sorted out the window, so that goes up and down now. The motor was gone and the window relay box had gone. So that's it really. There's not a lot else really to say. Well, there isn't really anything else to say, to be honest with you. Obviously it's got the MOT on it, whatever it's got left on it now, and the CV boot I've done, which I've done a video of, which I'll link here if I remember. That's about it really. I can't really think of anything else. So yeah, it's only got 89,000 miles on it. It's been repainted in an Audi. I can't remember the colour of it now. Daytona maybe, I did look it up. So it's got bundles of paperwork with it. I believe there's 2 keys with it. The central locking works. I haven't tried the sunroof. There is only one thing about this car apart from what I've already pointed out. As you can kind of see in here, there it is the headlining. So let me show you a bit closer. So as you can see, the headlining is pretty shot. It really does ideally need replacing. You can buy this material online, eBay, and it just gets some high temperature glue. And I was going to do it myself, but I've just come to the end of the line with this car really, and it is what it is. So in here obviously it needs a good clean because it's got all my crap in it, but it's got no stereo in it. It drives, it starts fine, it warms up fine, it drives fine, it's quite loud. So that's it on the Rover video. It may be currently for sale or already gone, depending on when you actually watch this video. So yeah, so thanks very much for watching the series on the Rover. I hope you enjoyed it. It's become a really appreciating classic now. I just think it looks really smart, what they've done to it. Yes, it's not original at all, but I think it's better than original. It's one thing Rover didn't really get right, which Ford did, was the sporty models. They've done the GTI models, the GSI models, but you know, I don't think they've done enough with the wheels, the suspension, you know, the sportiness of them. They were still old men cars. Yes, they had powerful engines in them, blah, 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 blah. So I think this car looks better, because this car originally would have had plastic bumpers on it, plastic front and rear bumpers on it. It wouldn't have had this interior in it and stuff like that. So it's been improved, I think, and I don't know what colour. I think it's a creamy colour, I think, from inside. So anyway, blabbing on. So yeah, thanks very much for watching these videos, and I'll see you soon.